Cheers, mate. Okay, right, so we've got a new lens this morning. Okay, so we're going to open that. It's just come in the post.
Cool.
Yeah. Forgive me this morning for the hair. We're still in our pyjamas, aren't we? It's early morning. You daft thing. Okay, so not really going to be an unboxing channel, this, don't worry. It's not kind of what we're into, but just where people basically just kind of like unbox stuff.
Yeah, I've watched that. I like it.
Yeah, all right. Well, maybe you can do that bit. Okay, so let's start with open this.
It's fun because they order loads of toys.
All right, yeah, toy ones. Okay, so I thought we'd just do this because it's
And candy.
it's relevant to kind of what I want to talk about today. All right, just put the box down. Just put the box down. Okay, it's cool. Right, so we've got a new lens. It's a zoom lens. It's the Tamron. Tamron, that's the name of the lens. 28 to 75, 2.8. So this is like a really kind of good zoom lens, but it's not a native. Yeah, it's not a native lens to the camera manufacturer. It's what we call a
Chinese.
yeah.
Come on. It's
Probably
Chinese
Japanese,
writing.
actually. I think it's Japanese company.
writing.
So
Ooh, look at it.
okay, calm down. So what it is the native lens is one that the actual camera company have produced, sweetheart. Camera company have produced. This is like a third party lens. So this company basically makes lenses for other cameras.
Yeah.
Which usually means they're a little bit cheaper than the ones that you get from the actual manufacturer of the camera. But this is supposed to be a really excellent lens, so that's why I wanted to kind of try it out. So,
Cool.
just little kind of first look at it. I've got the 24 to 70 G Master for my Sony, and this is, I can just tell on first glance this is so small compared to that. And you know, everything's kind of more a prime lens sort of size. So I'm really interested to see kind of what the image quality is like. All the videos and stuff I've watched, it's supposed to be excellent. So
Cool.
yeah, I'll give that a go over the next few weeks and probably do a bit of a discussion about lenses down the line. But that's got me sort of into the video that I wanted to make today, which was I wanted to talk about all the different parts of a camera.
Okay.
All right? Because
Let's keep talking.
okay, so one of the things is I've just got a camera here. So the thing is, when I was first starting out, moving from like a small camera, like a camera phone, or a small kind of point and shoot camera, to a proper either a DSLR or a kind of more kind of professional interchangeable lens camera,
Cool.
like this Sony A7 III. The thing about this is it's got so many more features and buttons and parts to it that I just thought we'd talk about what they are.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you know what they are, then as we talk about things down the line in different videos,
To
it'll help.
record,
Okay, yeah. So
you press that to take a photo. Done.
you do. Okay, so on the outside of it, at the moment, this has got a plate on it. So we'll just ignore the plate. Basically, this is what attaches it to a tripod or a monopod, or in this, yeah, that's a tripod. But
One of the big tripods that, like, when we take family photos, like at Christmas and birthdays.
exactly.
And that time when we went to Pizza Hut.
Okay, so the main things that I'm going to talk about first of all is the lens. So basically, what your lens is doing right, that is shaping and focusing the light that we're going to capture. So all photography and filmmaking, right, is about capturing light and shadow, okay? So basically, the lens is the biggest kind of part of that in terms of if we just let light come into a camera, it wouldn't make any sense, all right? It would just look like it would just look like light.
It would look really bright, and that thing on the laptop with the editing would just go like really red, and it would go red all over.
Yeah.
And it would look really weird.
Yeah.
Would it go blurry? Because it's like a lot of light.
That's exactly it. It would go blurry because it wouldn't be focused.
That would be a weird photo.
Okay. So what the lens does is it focuses the light, all right, and it also allows us to control the light, so that when it comes into the camera knows what exactly it's trying to capture. That's a very simplified explanation, but the lens is very important, and you get different lenses. And actually, what I found is that lenses are probably one of the most important things when it comes to improving the quality of your photography or your filmmaking. The camera itself will always capture kind of a decent image. How expensive the camera is and how good the next part is that I'll talk about, the sensor, isn't as important as how good the lens is. And the quality of the lens will be the main factor in determining how good the quality of the image is. Okay.
Is it like the same on like every lens like this?
No, it's not the same, and that's the thing. Inside these lenses, they have all sorts of different, they call them elements, and they have all different elements in there that make up the lens. So like different pieces of glass, different pieces of metal and plastic, and all of these things will contribute towards kind of creating the image that you actually see, and how well the camera looks, how well the image how well the camera makes the image look in the out of focus and in focus areas.
Mummy!
So that's the lens. So the next part is the camera sensor. So inside the camera we have, now this is a full frame camera, so we have a full frame sensor. But inside every camera, including the one in your smartphone, there's a sensor, okay? That's kind of what the sensor looks like, but it's got a bit of a filter in front of it, so it won't look exactly like that. But that is basically the sensor that you can see in there. Yes?
Is it like the same on iPads where
your
like
iPad's
clearer?
Yeah, your iPad's got the little bit on the back. iPad's got a lens in front of it, and then it's got a sensor. So the actual sensor is where the light's going to hit. Okay, so the light will get collected there. It's collecting all the light and all the data that's going to make up your image. Because this is a digital camera, it's a digital image sensor, and it's basically in the place of what would have been film back in the days, or if you were to use a film camera. So what used to happen is the light came through the lens onto the film, like a chemical process. The image was produced onto the film, whereas now it's captured as data in lots of zeros and ones and interpreted by the computer inside the camera. That's the same whether it's this sort of camera or whether it's your iPhone or a point and shoot camera.
What's data?
Data is like information that computers hold. Yeah, so basically a PowerPoint presentation is just a load of data. But it's
Google, like
it's made to look, it's made to look a certain way. Okay, so in order to control the light coming in and out of the camera, you're shaping it and collecting it using the lens, but the shutter, which is something inside the camera that opens and closes, the shutter is going to allow us to control the amount of light coming into the camera. Okay? So that shutter is going to open and close when we press the shutter button just here.
If you take this off.
Yeah.
Can you do it for an example?
Not really, no. So I'm going to talk about shutter speed, I'm going to talk about aperture and things like that in another video. what I'm trying to discuss here is just the fact that when you press the shutter button, it opens the shutter for the amount of time that you've set the camera to do so. And you can control if that happens for a second or 100th of a second or 1,000th of a second or for 30 seconds. And that's actually going to control the amount of not only exposure, but the amount of sharpness and motion blur that you get in your photos.
What does sharpness mean?
How clear something is. That's a simplified way of saying it.
How clear do you want it to be?
Exactly, and that's why you need to know how to work the camera so that you can change the settings in order to produce something that you know, an image in the way that you want. You might want a blurry image, but that's a completely different video. Okay, so
I was thinking just then, why would you want a blurry image? But you would want a blurry image if it was like, when I watched that wedding video of in the first dance where it's focused on one person, and the other person's blurry.
Yeah.
Then it changed to the other person.
Exactly, that's very good, but that's to do with depth of field, and that's more to do with the aperture in the lens rather than the another video that we'll do. Okay, so in order to see what's happening in the camera, you've got two things on this camera. In an older DSLR, what you used to have is an optical viewfinder. So you would look through this and what you would be seeing would be basically what the camera could see at the other end. It was like a like-for-like representation. This camera uses a digital viewfinder, which basically means there's a tiny little screen in there, and it's more or less the same as this screen that's on the back. And when you alter the settings on the camera, and you change how the image looks, the final image will look, you actually get to see what it looks like through this viewfinder or through the screen. So if you lighten or darken the image, you will get to see what exposure you're going to get. All cameras have some kind of screen or some kind of viewfinder for you to be able to see what image you're getting, or modern cameras anyway. But it just depends what sort of camera you're working with as to what you actually have. On this one, it's a digital viewfinder. What you need is to be able to see what it is you're capturing, not only because you want to be able to see the exposure, but you want to be able to frame and compose things. So you need to be able to see what it is that you're looking at and what it is that the camera's seeing, so that you can frame and compose it in the right way.
So you can get 2 people or 3 people, whatever amount of number it is, into the photo. Because if you're filming and you don't check the frame, then you might be cutting somebody out of it.
Exactly. And that's why the lens, and that's where we come back to with the lens, because the lens, depending on the focal length, will change how you can compose the image. This lens is a similar field of view, not exactly, but something around the same field of view as what your eyes would see. Between a 35 and a 55 is about what your eyes would see. Whereas you could shoot with what we've got on here, which is a 16mm at the moment. We're recording on that. That's quite wide and that's quite close to us, and it gets us both in.
And it's just with that on here. It's on this camera, there's a red thing, and it goes into the camera. What is it?
That's just for the microphone. Don't worry about that. Okay, so just to wrap this up, because this is just supposed to be the basic, simple stuff. So we've got the lens, we've got the shutter, we've got the sensor, we've got the screen and the viewfinder, we've got the shutter button. They are like the main features of any camera. Obviously, you're going to have a battery because it's a digital camera. You're going to have a slot for your memory cards.
What's this bit?
That's for your memory cards, look.
Oh, that scared me.
And then you've got a record button on here, so that you can that's like separate for doing film. Now, this is this is for plugging microphones and things in. So this is the great thing. This camera is a photography camera. That would be its primary sort of use. But I use this for making videos, for making films, because cameras these days, which is what we discussed in the last video,
Yesterday.
the last video. What we were discussing is that cameras can produce these days, they're hybrid. They can produce photographs, they can do video in the same form factor, on the same unit, recording to the same media, using the same lenses, the same hardware. And that means that we can be very flexible in the way we work. We don't have to walk around with big shoulder rigs. We don't have to have big cameras. We can be discreet, and we can be spontaneous because we can carry this around in our bags or our pockets. I mean, you might not get that in a pocket, but you can get some of the smaller ones in a pocket, and it's with you, and you can film whenever you want and take photographs on the same device.
Like what we did yesterday.
Exactly.
Because you can get like GoPros and they can just fit in your pocket and you can carry them around.
That's right, and that's the next video. We're going to talk about all the different types of cameras and why you would choose which type of camera you would choose. Right, so if you've liked this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
Hi, and one more thing. I'm just going to take this lens and this and another lens. I'll take this off. If you know camera's really good, then which one is the real lens? Is it this Tampon one? Or is it this Sony one?
It's a Canon one, but yeah.
Whatever, I don't even know which one it is.
Because one's a coffee cup, isn't it?
Yes!
Okay.
See? Ta-da! I broke the lens. I broke the lens. I broke the lens.